in many ways, Sauron is the true side character of the Silmarillion.
Absolutely. They pulled a whole trilogy out of his ass right there.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast.
This
All
is
right,
number 112.
112.
That's right. And then eventually it'll be 1123 many years from now. And we'll have completed the beginning of the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah. That would take many moons, many
it would indeed.
Many eons of time.
Yes.
How many of you would still remain at that point? That would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. I'm Aju. Thank you so much for joining the stream. And no, we're not going to be talking about Feanor. I mean,
because he is too much of a main character.
Yeah, that drama queen. He's got like way too much main character. Revolves around me syndrome. Everything. Psychronia, yes. Antagonistic side characters, meaning basically not your main villain, but your episodic,
your bully villain,
your bully villains. You know, all those characters. Can they actually be important to the story? Yeah. Can they have value beyond just fulfilling a little bit of conflict in that one episode?
Yeah, that one guy in Batman the Animated Series that walks in and sees Batman in the penthouse and then just decides to leave. You know, like things like that.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, there's so many of these characters too that a whole part of this will actually be hearing from you guys as to some of your favorite antagonistic side characters. So be sure to stick around and get in on that. Oh my god, Munchkini, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub for 3 months. Ascalon Kaiki stream, PogChamp. Hey, those are great examples. I would say that Ascalon is a little bit bigger of a main character, so he would not
he's more
fall
of a mentor
under this
figure.
Yeah.
But like Kaiki, definitely.
Kaiki is a great example of that. Yep. Yes, absolutely. And part of the beautiful thing about this is we're going to be delving into the difference in the structure of the story and how that makes certain characters become side characters. Because sometimes the main cast revolves around what kind of arc you're dealing with.
Well, and also, like, so this in particular is something that for a long time I thought the antagonistic side characters that were just sort of the, throwaway characters. Throwaway characters. I thought that was a mistake, shall we say. A waste of time, a waste of space.
Yeah, it was lazy.
Right, lazy. And in some ways, it definitely can be. And yet at the same time, there's actually an incredible amount of depth that you can get at from those side characters.
If you want to.
Yes. If you want to. You don't have to, and that's one of the beautiful things about it, right? And then when you do get to it, you can do it in a very short amount of time and then move on, right? Because they're not the main point of the story. So there's an incredible amount of freedom in that.
And we'll be going into like a lot of those different types of characters, bringing up some of our favorites, some of the ways in which they're vastly different from each other. Like this doesn't fit some like specific archetype in any way, shape, or form.
Because it's an artistic, means of expression. So there are rules, and all rules are meant to be broken. And there's different ways to do things, and things don't necessarily fit into one category or another.
Right, but there will be very clear antagonists that we will not be talking about. The Johans, the Griffiths, the big main antagonistic characters, the Shigarakis. Like I've got my My Hero Academia shirt on.
True villains rather than just sort of the antagonistic side characters.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So delving into characters that might not even be proper kind of villains in the antagonistic side, that they're completely against the protagonist.
Right. Like in more of like a slice of life story, these characters I feel like can be a lot more common because in many ways it's more realistic, right? You might not have some crazy villain, but you can have that asshole next door, right? Or just the bully at school, right? And sometimes you can have those characters if it's like a really heavy drama, like March Comes in Like a Lion, for instance, and you can have them get into some really heavy stuff where
Goto.
They can, like Goto or Kyoko, where it can almost feel villain-ish, right? But then there's the ones where it's not, it's more petty or whatever.
Right, but because there's so many of them, there's like they're practically a dime a dozen. We're going to be calling out ways in which we think that the show, the story, or what have you did an excellent job at handling that character and turning him into an actual multi-dimensional character, but also calling out and acknowledging the ones that have that one dimension to them. And the reason why they're in this story is not actually to be a character. and we'll be getting into that as well. But let's just hear from you guys. Oh wait, no, sorry. Before we do that, we got to give our VIP shout out to Shy Monkeys, the absolute legend, mad lad that actually helped kick off the One Piece manga streams.
Crazy to think
so
about.
Everyone give an awesome shout out to Shy Monkeys in chat. I do not believe he is here, but
I don't think
you're
so.
awesome. Thank you so much for the VIP support, bro.
Yes.
It means a lot. And wow, we're doing One Piece manga because of you. So like that's just so freaking awesome.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah. Absolute mad lad.
Yeah, Corcus is a great example.
Corcus, yes.
Corcus is a fantastic example.
Great example.
And by the time his story concludes in the way that it does, he's our little asshole, right?
Yeah, that scene in the tavern is really important for characters like Corcus.
Yep.
They have their moment where you realize, okay, he's not going to get another moment like this. It is important that this little bit of time he gets to shine. And it's not just him being redeemed or what have you, or him getting tons of characterization where suddenly we like him all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, you could say that Corcus is the most realistic character of the 97 Berserk show. Because he's just a dude. He's not a good dude, right? You know, he's an asshole.
He's a mercenary.
He's a mercenary, right? He's a lying, killing, thief scumbag, right? But, you know, that helps keep him safe. You know, it's what works for him. And then you have people like Guts that, you know, well, yeah.
All right. So I wanted to hear from you guys. What are some of your, given the parameters that we've set, what are some of your side characters in anime, fiction, what have you, where they're not really a big character in the story? They could not be considered part of the main cast of characters, and they just kill it at being an antagonistic side character. What that means is that they have some motivation or goal that is in conflict with the protagonist or protagonists cast. Exactly, put your glasses on. I was literally going to be mentioning a huge portion of my part in the podcast specifically for Lung. Lung is a masterpiece of an antagonistic side character. If you have not watched Monster, you can watch it just for this character and still have a decently good time. There's so much more to it, but But yeah, great example.
And there are many characters you could just watch Monster for, but yeah.
Scar is another example. He treads a little bit into the main cast, I would say a little bit. But I would say that when all is said and done, he does fulfill that purpose.
Yeah.
It's because I would say that what makes him a side character more than a main antagonist is that his goals are not directed specifically towards the protagonist or against the protagonist. He has his own journey and storyline that he's going on that brings him into conflict with the protagonists, but he'll edge in and out of whether or not he's actually working with them or against them. And
that is a great example of how you can have someone that is very much like Scar is part of the main cast, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And yet he still fits that bill, kind of, right? It's not just a one way or the other. Kimblee is another great example from Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah, you'll find these in almost every show. The thing is that there are very specific ones like Kimblee and Scar where you'll be like, oh my god, for some reason, those two, they ended up being my favorite characters at certain points in the show.
Yeah, like the way that like Kimblee is, if Scar is more a main character, and Kimblee is more villainish, right? Like he is a psycho, he is cold killer, crazy, right? But then there's those moments where, you know, everyone's realizing that, oh yeah, we're soldiers, we're needing to kill people, and he has this, you know, this little speech
philosophy,
you didn't think you'd have to do that?
What's your problem?
What's your problem? Like you should have made peace with this a long time ago. You know, and those kinds of things that make him feel very human, as much of a monster as he is.
For sure, yeah. Would Night Eye from MHA count? He's not villainous, but against Izuku in a major way. I would say no. I would say there's parts of him that where it does count, but because he is not actually that antagonistic towards Izuku's goals, I would say it's more of he has an ideology that it leads towards a disagreement, but it's not antagonistic.
Well, I would personally say it is, but the thing is that in the case of Night Eye, he so quickly goes from being antagonistic to being kind of on the same side as Deku.
Sure.
That it isn't as good of an example of it, but it still does get at that concept, right? And because of that, through Night Eye and the position that he plays basically in the story, we are able to get a very human perspective on just, you know, what it's like to be a hero in this world and whatnot.
Oikawa is a good example. I would say that a lot of the characters in Haikyuu, get into this, but one of the things that's very special, I would say, about Haikyuu is that almost none of the characters are villains.
Yes.
But they can be antagonistic because there is the competitive side where anytime Karasuno wants to win, there is another team that just naturally becomes the temporary antagonists because they also want to win. So Oikawa is a great example because he not only has the competitive edge, not competitive edge, but he does, but the competitive desires against Karasuno, he also has the rivalry specifically against Kageyama. So it makes him a much more personal, I would say, antagonist. But when we first meet him, I would say he's pretty one-dimensional as far as things go. It's really not until later on in season 1 where we see him like sitting in front of the TV, like studying the game, that he's putting in the hours, he's putting in the work, to where we go, oh, okay, you have that extra bit of dimension. And a lot of the characters that we'll bring up here have a little bit of that formula, where they'll either stay as the one-dimensional character with a little bit of a spice or something in there, or they'll have that moment that they'll get to where the creator of the story basically goes, oh, we're going to add that dimension to you, where if you saw things from their perspective, you might not see them as an antagonist.
Well, and also the idea that because where I was originally with my perspective on this was very much that if you're going to do antagonists, they should have that perspective from which, like they should have that depth that is made very apparent to them, so that way you don't just dismiss them as being some cartoony character, right? And yet there are instances that I've seen where the characters that did seem cartoonishly just sort of the mean guy in this wholesome story.
I'm a bully.
Right? I'm a bully.
That is a very common trope in anime and coming of age stories in general.
And yet, like, one of my favorite characters, potentially my favorite character in not Haikyuu, Hajime no Ippo, is Umezawa.
Yeah.
For the longest time, he was just that. There wasn't any depth to him, right? Now they got into some depth later, and what they did with Umezawa's character is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But the way he starts out, no, he's nothing special. He's just the mean guy that's beating up on Ippo because it's fun, right? And because they do that, because they make the decision to make it so simple, there are these amazing things that they're able to do later when they show him growing. Because I feel like a lot of the, like, when I was thinking about this concept, right, there's the hero, right? And oftentimes it's a big deal to try and show the opposite of the hero in the story, whether through the villain or through like their sidekick that, like, you know, has like those
who's like on the way to grow up with them,
exactly. But I would say that the Umezawa kind of characters, those are actually the true opposites of the hero, because one of the problems potentially with whenever you have a hero is that it is an idyllic archetype, right? Even if they have their own issues, it's something where they are very much charging forward, making progress, doing the heroic journey that we enjoy watching, right? We wouldn't enjoy watching a story about just some random bully, right?
Yeah,
But the thing is, those people do exist. And as contrast, it can be so important, right? And then because of that, with Umezawa's character, right, when he starts to change, when he sees the things that Ippo does, and that inspires him to be different, that's in a lot of ways more real to me than Ippo's journey himself. Because Ippo's got the punches, he's got the things, and he works like a madman, right? But it's this success to success to success. Whereas with someone like Umezawa, no, it's not some crazy story of his heroic, you know, seizing the day and all that stuff, right? It's more of the Shinso kind of stuff, you know, from MHA or whatever, where the story isn't about them and their life just keeps on going. But it does keep going. You just don't get to see it because that's not part of the story.
And when you start looking at these characters, you realize how many of your favorite shows, and in some ways your favorite characters in those shows, are just filled with them. Like, these characters are everywhere. Now, here's the thing. There's varying degrees of them. Like, here's an example of one where they're basically just non-existent until one episode. Now, they have a gimmick that makes them kind of fun, but there's a reason I'm wearing this shirt specifically. This is a very popular show going on right now. But there's a character in the not Phantom Troop of the League of Villains, basically, who gets a random episode specifically to give him this little bit of development. And it's like, oh, what's all this? And it's twice. And it's this funny thing where you have this character who's like not even Dobby at like level there, but he has his little, his gimmick. He's basically a meme character, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not one to be taken seriously until this episode. But then randomly you get this episode where we're like, okay, we're going to walk in his shoes a bit, showcase things from his perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, like, I don't know what the fandom's reaction to that was, but for me, he went as being like this, like just this way more important character as far as things go. Because then you're like, oh, wait a minute, you haven't upgraded him to the main cast in any way, but you've taken the time necessarily to let us see what things are like from his perspective. And I'd say that perspective shift is really good.
And that you didn't upgrade him to part of the main cast, it's not just that hasn't happened yet, but it's probably never going to happen, right? Twice is a side character. And yes, I have to shout out everyone in here that's talking about Domekano as far as antagonistic side characters, and Tonpa.
Yes,
and
Tonpa.
Whole Horse, yeah.
Tonpa, Whole Horse.
Now,
my gosh,
as much as these characters are memes, and Chef Boy and Society, the fact that they are just doing their thing.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
They're just doing their thing. It's slice of life for villains, if you think about it, or just antagonistic characters. And you don't have to give a lot of screen time to them, which is great because their role in the story doesn't demand that much, which means that you can give slice of life elements without boring your audience if slice of life is not the kind of story that you're dealing with, right?
You could say, this is one of the first elements I would say of clever writing you can do with these characters, where their point, remember how I said in the beginning how one of the points of these characters is not actually to create another character that you're going to give focus to, it's actually world building. There's a clever way you can give exposition in a not exposition way through a character that showcases a different perspective on the world. So let's say you have let's say you have like JoJo's, for instance. It's got some of the most episodic, formulaic monster of the week, stand of the week kind of encounters, right? Well, here's the thing. What do stands do? We don't know unless they show us what stands do, right? So there's all these specific characters that are used to show us the limits, the bounds, the capacity of stands in ways where they are not just there to be a stand. They also have that and a character that gives that little bit of interaction there. So we have the brothers, the Oingo Boingo brothers.
Oh, I thought you were talking about good old Bado Company.
Bado Company. That's a great example. I would say Part 4 in some ways evolved the side antagonist stand of the week encounters a little bit in a better way than even Part 3 did, with characters like Tonio, for instance.
Where it doesn't have to be resolved with combat. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Those little moments actually provide opportunities for world building where you actually add to this, world that you're presenting there via the means of a character that is in some ways sacrificed. They're not going to be a great character. They're going to be a very simple, one-dimensional shtick. But they're there so that you can have your main characters get their opportunity to develop, give more time for them to be awesome, do things in the spotlight. And then this antagonistic side character is there just to add to the world, give you that feeling of immersion, that there are real people out there just going about doing their lives that don't matter to the main plot.
Right.
But are there, they're present, you're going to remember them. And in some ways, if they make a big enough splash in their moment, because they didn't get the opportunity to be main characters and screw up things in the pacing or in the characterization writing, just ending up contradicting itself or what have you, they can end up becoming your favorite characters.
Oh, yeah.
I think Tonpa's meme in Hunter x Hunter is one of the best examples of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, here's another example that I'll go into a bit. March comes in like a lion the second season. When they go into the bullying.
Oh, my God.
Now, they ended up characterizing the bully very well afterwards, which was fantastic, and it was really good. The thing is, they didn't need to do that. That was the perfect cherry on top, but if they hadn't done that, it still would have been fine. And I feel like the reason for that is that even if we don't know why this specific bully is doing what they're doing, right? One, there's a good reason why we don't know that, because the perspective of the person that's getting bullied isn't going to see things from the perspective of the person doing the bullying. The fact that they introduced the teacher as a way to show us that perspective of the bully character is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that we know that those people exist out there, right? So we don't necessarily need to see why this person in particular is doing it, because we know it's done in a realistic enough way and in a consistent enough way that we know that yes, this person is real, right? But the thing is, like, conflict in stories, and you can't have a story without conflict, really. Most conflict comes from misunderstanding and miscommunication and things like that, right? So the fact that the characters have different perspectives, of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do.
Right. Yeah, especially conflict between characters. There are ones where the conflict just ends up being a simple obstacle between the goal and the character.
Right.
But one of the things that's great as far as adding in an obstacle is to create one of these antagonistic side characters and just be like, yeah, they're not just a wall. They're actually there and they're moving.
Yep.
They're there. They may be moving slowly, and that's why the protagonist is like, hey, get out of the way. Like, I'm trying to get through here. But Will, you're hilarious.
No. So okay, it's funny, but I think that's actually a very serious, good point that can be made.
Oh,
so
really?
You may have heard of this side character called Kira Yoshikage. He just wants to live a quiet life out of the spotlight.
Yeah.
Now that's a great joke because Kira is a fantastic villain, and he is definitely the main villain of Part 4, right?
Yes. But
if you think about it, the way he's set up very much to be just a random one of the stand users out of the stand user of the week kind of a things, villains, right? You know, and he's just he for all intensive purposes could have just been a 1 or 2 episode stand user, right? Like, what's his face from the very beginning.
We didn't have to have him be a serial killer in addition to having his hand fetish. Like,
well, even if he was a serial killer, he didn't have to have an actual really powerful stand. He could have been caught. He could have been whatever.
Yeah, he could have just started being a serial killer.
Exactly. Well, and the fact that we get to see him constantly struggle to basically not do anything crazy, just live a quiet life, right? That makes his whole plight so much more weirdly humanizing, even though granted he's a crazy serial killer, than say with Dio, where he wants to be some, you know, super crazy powerful vampire and defeat the Joestar bloodline and whatnot and all that. Stop time and everything.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the all-intensive porpoises is us making fun of not only just the way it sounds with it going to porpoises and stuff like that, but the way people usually misuse that phrase.
Yes.
They actually go for all-intensive purposes. So, you know,
yeah,
exactly.
As opposed to intense and purposes.
Yeah. Satsuki Kiryuin is an awesome antagonist. Yes. Satsuki, I would say, is not a side character, though.
Right, and that's but the thing is that aspect, that Satsuki aspect, is something that is like the more in a lot of ways the more important thing to have down, right? Because if you the more time and weight your character has in the story, the more you want them to be fleshed out and deep and things like that, right? But imagine if you had a character that was basically Satsuki, except she didn't really have any of the depth that we end up getting with her later on, and she was just there for a little bit, and maybe she was just some side character that kept on, you know, being some reoccurring person or whatever, like the episode 4 antagonistic character, right? Completely a filler character for a filler episode, right?
Yeah.
But let's say she actually had stuck around as some antagonistic character, and she was sort of a Team Rocket kind of, like, not even taking up much time in the story, but just constantly trying to do her own thing. That, in some ways, there's kind of a quaintness to that, where it's this is a regular person in this weird world trying to carve out their own little piece of joy, even if they're trying to step on other people to do it.
Yeah. One of the things that's cool about the more ambitious, larger ensemble cast stories is that they break down the barrier between main characters and side characters rather well. What they'll usually do is they'll have a perspective character. Sometimes it'll shift, like Game of Thrones does this.
Sure.
Hunter x Hunter does this. Examples of that are really good, but there are always going to be those characters where they're relegated to having a simple motivation. And I would say the more simple the motivation, the more exploration we can give on this specific topic here. So Hunter x Hunter will have this with the Phantom Troop. I would say one of the things Jacob and I was discussing before this podcast is how, in a lot of ways, in Hunter x Hunter, the side characters end up becoming, like, bigger, like, you know,
we get more attached to the side characters
than some of the main characters.
Yeah.
Now, definitely, Gon and Killua are, like, some of the best characters in the show, for sure. But we'll have these little moments where we'll be like, oh yeah, remember Krollo's Requiem for Uvogin?
Yep.
Like, he was the main antagonist for York New, But like, think about it in the grand scheme of things, he's a pretty small character.
Yep.
And yet, when he was there doing his thing, it was fantastic. I think another example of this that was done very well and led to probably one of my favorite discussions that we ever had in Hunter x Hunter was Yuppie.
Yep.
In the Chimera Ant arc.
Yep.
I was realizing more and more as the Chimera Ants were kind of getting, developed and stuff, and the Royal Guard were becoming more and more of a main part of the conflict, that Yuppie, it wasn't getting as much love as the other two characters were. And I was just like, wait a minute.
When's this guy going to get characterized?
Yeah, when's this guy going to get characterized?
He's just a big, strong dog right now.
And then we realized, oh my God, here's his character, and it's coming out into the forefront here. And what he was someone that we hadn't really gotten that perspective from. He usually didn't have much to say. He wasn't, as melodramatic as
his good old Shia
LaBeouf. Yeah, exactly. And then we have our best Neko Kitty. She had a lot more opportunities for giving really good characterization and moments and stuff, because she was either flanking the king or gone, and it was just like, oh yeah, what those characters just bring out awesome stuff surrounding you there. It's
one of those things where, and again with Yuppie, I feel like that's even though it was very much done in its own unique way, that archetype of the stoic character that is the loyal person and all that stuff, I feel like that is a great way to basically have a character that has big plot ramifications, right? That also plays to this archetype, because their characterization, if you will, because they are getting a lot of characterization, even though sometimes you can miss it, is how loyal they are, right? And that they will always put the needs of whoever they're answering to before their own.
Yeah.
But then if you have characters like Colt or something like that, right? Where he's just some person, and granted, he's not really antagonistic. Like he has his own little protagonist journey that he's on.
Right. But being his origins and stuff.
Right. But the idea that sometimes by keeping things simple and almost too simple, right?
Yes.
Where it's a caricature, not even a character, right? But it's something that is realistic enough that basically it doesn't put off your audience, right? It's not something where they're like, okay, this is boring or whatever. And if it is, then at the very least they don't take up much time anyways, right? And then it's almost like this little like deployed sleeper agent, where then later you can actually start to give them characterization, and then suddenly there's even more attention drawn to it because the audience is used to just this blank canvas kind of a thing.
Right. I would say that this is also part of the ways where you can make the most mistakes with your side character antagonists, basically, is if you give them their shtick, and we know how, you guys at least know how much we love character contradictions. The character contradictions still have to go in line with their motivations. So if you have a character that's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a character where they just throw in a shtick for the sake of it. I think this might be a controversial one, but I think an example of this where it's not even an antagonist, but an example of this where it's just like, oh, sure, he has this for, reasons and stuff. Like Levi from Attack on Titan being a clean freak, for instance. It's a thing where the shtick of him being a clean freak is fun, and there are little moments here and there where we see him, doing things against the shtick, where he's like grasping onto the bloodied hand of his comrade and what have you. But it's not something really to give him character as it is just to contradict at a later point.
Right. And
So there are moments where the side characters will be given a shtick, and you realize that the shtick is actually nothing to do with their character in terms of characterization. So then when they contradict it later, it feels like a little like, but I wasn't invested in them as a character anyway. So if anything, I feel like you need to give some little bit of characterization within the shtick.
See, for me, I actually think it's kind of the opposite. But I used to think that way.
Okay.
And so like for instance, in Battle Lines, the character there's almost none of this because the characters very much have their own rhyme and reason and whatnot from their own way of doing things, right?
Right. Also, there's very few like specific hard antagonists. And most people are kind of gray area.
And generally with these kinds of characters, because it takes longer, you don't so much want to do it in like a short form story. It's a lot better for long form. So
it's
things
way
like
better for long
Hajime no Ippo or Attack on Titan, JoJo's, Hunter x Hunter, Monster, things like that, right?
Shonen are filled with these types of characters.
Shonen are filled with them. And the thing is that I used to look down on this as being something where, okay, they're just because it can definitely it's filler, and it can definitely be done badly. But the thing is that filler is also something.
Yes.
Just by the very nature that it's filler, right? Mm-hmm. So it's and it's crazy because that's actually potentially, you might never, like, a lot of stories don't ever capitalize on it, but that is still building something up just because of the time that you've seen this person be doing their shtick or whatever, whether it's being the bully or being the clean freak or whatever, right? And then you can introduce something contrary to that can give characterization that can be much further, go much deeper, because you are used to seeing this person as simply a caricature.
Someone asked a question up here. Princess Grimoire, is it possible for a main protagonist to shift into the minor side antagonist role, temporarily being a fit for what we're talking about, or is that a whole other shebang? I would like to look at examples of that, because I don't know of specific examples off the top of my head.
Okay, so I would say here's an example where it might come into play. Now, as for a minor or side antagonist,
maybe?
Well, or something where usually you have multiple main characters. So in something like, say, Code Geass, you have Lelouch and Suzaku, right?
Yeah.
Now they are a bit more main antagonists towards each other and stuff.
Yeah.
But you could definitely do some, like Suzaku in sometimes, and certainly if he hadn't randomly gotten the magical super robot,
like when Nanali is taken by Schneisel, she kind of becomes a minor antagonist.
But whenever you have something where you have like dual main characters, that's where it can be a lot easier, or just multiple main characters. So if you have like a more of like a Game of Thrones kind of a thing where you're going to different perspective characters and whatnot, then that's a lot easier to do.
Birthday party, no spam, please. You're gonna get timed out. On a more serious note, Azula and her feelings on her mother and her secret fear of being looked down upon by Zuzu as it slowly surfaces reveals the interesting fragility of her false perfectionism. Is this related to being a side antagonist, though? I think that's more of just the
caricature.
The caricature that she was being brought up. And it's interesting because Azula and the villains in Avatar: The Last Airbender, you could actually say are the weakest part of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Sure.
But yeah, Azula was their thing of being like, no, we're actually going to give our antagonist depth, and they needed to do it slowly so that it didn't take things away from the protagonist.
But if you wanted to look at more of a side antagonist, you could look at Zhao, because in a lot of ways Zhao is just the bully, right?
He is.
He bullies Zuko.
Zuko. Wow.
Azula would definitely call him Zuzu. Something like that. Yeah. But he's just the bully to Zuko, right? And he's kind of an antagonist to Aang and whatnot.
Sure.
But you know that he's not really a threat. Like Aang can beat him without actually attacking, right? So
Yeah. And even more, I would say, like smaller one in Avatar: The Last Airbender is Jet. Unfortunately, he's encased within, I would say, one of the lesser episodes of, book one, in terms of just how they wrote the main characters specifically. But as what he serves in the story is he actually gives a little bit of world building to the idea that the Fire Nation are not the only people that are capable of horrible things.
Right.
It is the idea that war propagates this darkness in people because of how horrible war can be. We don't look at Jet and go, look at this like bad Peter Pan, rip-off character and go, he's useless to the story. We actually go, wait a minute. Yeah, he's not an amazing character by any stretch of it, but he showcases something that's rather interesting, something that we actually don't really get to see much of later until book 2, when they go into the whole Earth Kingdom thing hey, there's bad people on both sides of this conflict.
In a lot of ways, Jet was the first thing that made it actually feel like a war.
Yeah, you're right.
Before then, it's just cartoonish bad guys, whatever. But once Jet comes onto
there was the genocide of the air.
Well, yes.
But I know what you mean.
But we don't see that. That's something that we just know happened, right? You know, and we see the consequences of it with Aang.
Right.
But as far as seeing
a previous conflict, right? It's a current conflict.
Right. That's 100 years ago, right? You know, other than through this boy that was in an iceberg, how do we actually have that pertain to us in here and now?
Yeah.
And then Jet comes along, and even though there were some parts of that episode that you know, what it fit, the piece that it played in the overall story, fantastic.
Yeah. And then they ended up bringing him back in book 2 to where they actually used him in an incredible way, in a way that was, I would say, way better written surrounding the characters, especially how he was paired with Zuko.
Right.
And this is the other thing that these antagonistic side characters are really good at doing, and you brought it up a little bit in showcasing how they're the opposites, but they actually highlight opportunities for the main characters to give some serious character development. Because what is better than having that, you know, side off, you know, one-off kind of conflict bit where your main character gets put up against that little bit of conflict that they're not ready for, or something that's going to force them to develop. So that antagonistic side character is basically there to bring up that opportunity for development for your main cast. So the side character is one where it's like, yeah, they feel important because they're tied to a big plot moment, but the actual development ends up being given not to them. The characterization doesn't really be given to them specifically, but it's for the main characters to do this really, really big thing. Here's another example from Avatar: The Last Airbender. You have the Sandbenders in the book 2 moment there. They are not a big part of the story.
No.
But the fact that they took Appa at that one part there, they're just they're doing their thing. They're like, hey, there's a free sky bison. Let's go make some money. They go grab him. Toph's like, no, I can't see. What am I gonna do?
There's so many of the characters get pitched these amazing like things to hit off into the sky because of just these simple antagonistic characters that randomly show up.
They never get any development.
Nope.
There's just this little moment at the end of the desert episode where they go, we messed up. We'll help escort you out of the desert and solve this problem for you because we feel bad about what one of us did.
Yeah.
But it ends up leading to one of the most emotional climactic moments in the show where Aang rages and he's about to kill all of them. And it was a conscious decision. Like, this was not book 1 finale where he's kaiju'd in and he's, you know, just blah, blah, blah. And Katara is broken and she walks up to him and slowly pulls him down and embraces him, and it's book 1 episode 3 all over again. And he's realizing that they're his family, and he cries, and it's just, it's beautiful. Now, who are those Sandbenders? Did they even have names? Yeah, I think 2 of them had names, but that's it. That's it.
Here's another thing. Okay, now maybe this is crazy, but now that I think about it, I'm like, oh my god, I think I might have just cracked the code.
Oh yeah,
Zuko. So
really?
Bear with me here.
Really?
At the beginning of book 1, Zuko is very much the main villain. He is the face of the villains. He's all that stuff, right? Once Zhao actually comes onto the scene, Zhao is kind of a side character villain in a lot of ways because we know he's not a true threat. But Zuko, in the grand scheme of the world, plays less and less of a role of villain because Zhao's the one with actually the power. And then Zuko transitions into more of this antagonistic. Now, he's still very important, so he's not a side character by any stretch of the imagination. But he's more of just a antagonistic nuisance.
Well, I think that's more of the book 2 stuff that you're talking about, where he starts to be just literally limited in his ability to be antagonistic towards the protagonist. He doesn't interact with them almost at all, except for the chase and the finale.
Right, and even then, he almost doesn't even feel like an antagonist at that point. But like when, you know, the North Pole is getting attacked. Oh, and Zuko's trying to like sneak into the North Pole to capture Aang, but that's about it. That's about all he can do, right?
Yeah. I would say that the tricky thing with this is that he is definitely a part of the main cast in terms of his presence, his importance to the main plot.
Definitely. Yep.
What you're getting at, though, is I would say what kind of stuff you can do in the structure of the character in order to make them be a good, multi-dimensional version of this. And I would say that's where we can tie it to a character like Lung from Monster, who, I mean, you also love Lung and Ava. But keep going with Zuko.
But with the thing of Zuko, if you look at how Zuko was originally set up, it's about as caricature as you can get.
In terms of characterization, yeah. Right. But he gets characterization rather quickly.
Right. Once episode 3 hits, you know that there's
12.
something there. Once 12 hits, you know what it is. And then and that is where the transition
13.
has been made concrete, right?
Yeah.
But before that point, he is kind of set up as
just
the bully character, right? He's the angry, whatever person that just follows them around and does his thing.
So for Discovery writers, if you want to figure out your main antagonist, I think part 4 of JoJo's kind of, did this, in that there was definitely the setup for Kira to be the main villain and stuff. But let's say you didn't, decide that at the beginning. Then we get inside Araki's mind at that time. What if he was just throwing out, stand of the week characters, and he stumbles upon Kira and he's like, "Ooh,
I like this one.
Ooh, I like this one.
Yeah,
I'm going to give them the focus." You don't really know, you don't really know that was going to be the thing the whole time, and it's a cool immersion bit because characters that are the main antagonists sometimes feel a little bit in some ways a bit limited in what they can do writing wise, because that they have to be antagonistic all the way until the end, or they have to be antagonistic and have that antagonism actually mean something in the plot. And there are a lot of stories that I would say buck convention and are able to really subvert expectations in a good way. I would say Meruem is a great example of this, where he's definitely the main antagonist, but definitely has his development that you weren't necessarily thinking he would get in the beginning when he shows up, because that's just more of a character being upgraded to having more and more dimensions added to them.
But that's an example, I would say, and it's something that you kind of want to make sure that you do when the character has more plot importance. But when you're talking about side characters, then it can be missed a lot of the time.
Yeah. So you saw something in chat you wanted to bring up.
In the manga, there wasn't hints at Kira. The anime. Oh, scroll back down.
Oh, yeah.
The anime added those, the hands chopped off at the start.
Whoa.
That is insane to me, because that means that Kira could have just started as a stand of the week, right? And he's his thing, and then maybe Araki was like, you know what? What if this guy got away?
Yeah.
What if they didn't actually catch this guy? What if they didn't stop him? And then boom, there you go. You go.
Because Araki at that time, I think he had a good chunk of time in between chapters that he was writing. So he probably had enough time to think about it.
Sure.
But I don't know how Araki writes his stories, and I would say based on structure, most of the time I would say they're pretty outlined. They're not maybe hard outlined with regards to details on a week-by-week basis, or I don't know. At that time, was Araki month by month? Oh, it's from part 7 that it gets monthly. So, yeah, he could have changed his mind a little bit. But...
Or got the idea, but, as he's going. But think about that. I just
that's
think
a good theory.
Thing.
I almost want to, specifically, invest resources to get an interview with Araki and be like, hey, quick question. How far in advance did you plan Kira to be a main antagonist in part 4 of JoJo's? And he'd be like, the second or third chapter I was writing him, I decided. It'd be like, oh my god. Okay, I bet you there are anime, books, movies, stories, probably not movies. It would have to be a TV show kind of thing with a release format, that there are versions of characters that are like this, and there are probably even really good versions of this. Yeah.
But yeah, you were talking about Lung and Ava.
Yeah, I would say Lung and Ava are the example of where we can look at this and go, they're almost flawless in this regard for completely different reasons. One, Ava is very much tied to the main character. There are moments where she feels like a main cast member.
And Lung too, because they both get perspective focus at different points, which is a very big deal, and that usually that keeps them from feeling like true side characters.
Yes, but given how limited that perspective is over the course of the 74 episodes we get, there are a lot of times where Lung and Ava are out doing their thing.
Yep.
And while we definitely catch up on them every once in a while, we don't know exactly what's going on in their head 100% of the time. There are things going on in the background, and I would say the reason why I think of Lung more than Ava in this regard is the stuff with Lung's family.
Sure.
Ava has almost a literal plot reason why she gets demoted from main cast, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Tenma's just like, sorry, no, you're no longer main cast. Bye.
Well, and also, like, the fact that her true resolution is more of to find peace than to achieve some goal. Whereas Lung had a concrete goal that meant he had to continue along in the story.
And it evolved.
Right. But you know, people sometimes might wonder why I loved Ava so much as a character, because she's such a disaster, right?
Yeah.
It's because we could get essentially slice of life moments ongoing for this character in Monster, and the episodic episodes of Monster are I still hold to this day.
Remember
as
the
like,
family with the dinner where she was looking outside,
yep, or the soldier and the girl, you know, and there weren't really so much antagonists in those stories as there were just, you know, the conflict and the drama that comes about from life, right? Because life's messy. But in the case of Ava, she was very much characteristically introduced or introduced as a caricature at the beginning, right? She's a greedy like bitch, like she is awful, right? And yet it's the fact that she's awful that makes us interested to see if she'll actually be able to turn her life around. Right?
Yeah.
If she's given all these opportunities. But the thing is, and she's able to do this because she's not a hero character.
Definitely not.
She fails.
She's not a villain.
Time. She keeps going further down into this spiral. It's just awful, right?
Yeah.
But she's trying. But she's also ruining it for herself, and it's great.
Yeah. I would say that a good antagonistic side character, and the mark of one, creates their own drama without the main protagonist or main antagonist. They have their own story going on that if you were somehow able to shift into their perspective, they would be their own main character. They would be the main character of their own story. And it would be not a thing of where like, yeah, if you do that with anyone, they become the main character of their own story. No, they would be an engaging main character of their own story.
Right.
And I would say that is something that is something... Well, okay, let me backtrack. Well, what I mean is that... Sorry, go ahead. I need to gather my thoughts.
Well, so the idea that they could be the main character of their own story, and yet at the same time understanding the reasons why they are not, right? Because whenever you have the main character of a story, generally that they're the main character for a reason. And from backwards moving forwards, it can look like plot armor, right? But on the other hand, it's this is the story of the person that actually did the thing, right?
Sure.
You know, it's that they have to be the main character of the story because they have the most at stake. They're the person that the story does kind of revolve around, right? That's, you know, it doesn't have to be something that's forced. It can be something that's discovered. This is quite literally the main character out of all of these, right?
Right, yeah.
So with a side character, you have a whole lot more options. You have a whole lot more freedom because it doesn't have to just be confined by the constraints of what would make an engaging and cathartic ending for a story. Because for their story, they're not the main character. This doesn't have to be a story with a happy ending. This doesn't have to be a story where they rise to the occasion or anything like that.
Yeah. One of the things that's, I would say, also kind of interesting about these types of characters is that structure-wise, they're going to be very different based on what kind of story arc you're doing at the current time. Is this an overarching, you know, kind of just largely linear, you know, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of sequenced plot? Is this something where you have little mini arcs of sorts, kind of like Monogatari, where you kind of give, you know, shifting perspective constantly to every single, you know, character? Or is this one where it's more operatic, you know, like you have, you know, Game of Thrones, where the characters are all main characters, and it's just based on who actually gets perspective or not that makes them a side character. or main character.
Right.
There are always going to be these types of characters if you have, I would say, more than 3 characters in your story, basically. Like you're going to have them. Even in even in shows like you were saying, slice of life, romance, drama, things like that. You're going to have, I'd say you're going to have those characters. And it's not necessarily that there's a hard line in between side character and main character for some of these. But I was even thinking of moments where, you know, you have characters that aren't even really, like, there's a big cast and none of them are really antagonistic, but you'll have moments where they'll kind of dip into their relationship with a specific character and puts them in a minor antagonistic role. What's the character from Toradora that's everyone's favorite snarky commenter on all the...
Oh, Ami?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely introduced as an antagonistic figure that is very much a caricature in her own right.
Yep.
And then once the story continues, past her introduction and things like that, you actually start to see that
character and
that
not
there's
just that, but...
and that she's not necessarily just a caricature, right?
Yes.
But the thing is that it's established first that she's a caricature, right? And then from there, then we go somewhere, and that can, I feel like that can really add a lot of depth to the characters because the thing is, there are times when we're caricatures. There's times when we're kind of the pathetic side antagonistic characters, right?
I do that all the time in Frisbee. Every once in a while, I'm someone's minor antagonist in their life. Yep. I'm marking them in Frisbee, and they're like, "Oh, God damn it, Caleb! I'm gonna beat you on the disc here." Like there was a guy I was playing up against today who literally was like, "This is my last point before I have to go, so I'm scoring," and I was just like, "Oh no, you're not!" And he totally scored on me. He totally juked me under. Had a great move, and I was just like, all right, well, yeah, have a good one, man. And it's just those little moments there, I think, are where I'd have opportunities for the protagonist to maybe showcase a different side of themselves as well.
Well, and I know we talked about March Comes in Like a Lion before, but Goto really is a great example.
Let's talk about Goto.
Because he's such a side character. If you think about it, like the amount of actual screen time he gets in the show is almost none. Almost none. Yeah. And the thing is that he was just basically the villain type character, the bully, for all of season 1. And that's fine. He played it well, you know, and because he didn't have much screen time, it didn't make the rest of the drama of this series feel weird, right? Because he's just one person. We're not focusing on him because we know you don't want us to focus on him, right? Because he's just an asshole, right? He's that bully character. And then first episode of season 2 comes around, and very quickly they change our opinion, and then they move him out stage, you know, exit stage right again, and we don't see him for the rest of the season, I think.
Yeah, here's something I would say that's a little bit tricky with side antagonistic characters, or side characters that are also kind of antagonistic. I would say that there's a little bit of an expectation subversion bit that you kind of have to walk the fine line of dabbling in it, but not making it affect the main plot. Here's kind of something I would say that it's easy to get this wrong. There's some characters where you'll basically set them up and you'll give them their character. Very simple, very very much a bit as more of a mechanic in the story to be like, hey, here you are.
Yeah.
When you give them their little bit of added depth, development, or what have you, the more it ties to the main plot, the main conflict, if you will, the more you need to be able to see the connection point, especially the longer it goes between the kind of the introduction and development at the beginning to when they're brought up later as a big, and they get their big moment of development, to kind of to connect the dots there. If that doesn't really happen, what ends up kind of getting felt like was that the character was elevated for the purpose of fulfilling a plot bit rather than for them to be an actual character. I would say go for it, and this is a personal opinion, but go for it for the purpose of giving them characterization first, and if they happen to be in a position where they're going to affect the main plot, then there you go. I don't know. Like, do you have any examples of things where you see it in a different way or from a different perspective? Because I'm curious what you think on it.
Most of the examples that we've been giving so far this stream are ones that tend towards antagonists rather than side characters.
Ah, gotcha.
Right? And they have a lot of weight in the story narratively, or at the very least they take up a lot of screen time.
Okay.
So you definitely want them to be characterized early on, right?
Ah, I see what you're saying. Yes.
The less screen time you have, the less you need to characterize them, and in a lot of ways, the more you don't want to characterize them, or you want to characterize them as a caricature, right? Because you don't want to spend much time on them. But again, that's something. It's like the nod to Azula in The Storm, where we see Zuko getting burned by Ozai and Azula's there. We don't notice that she's there, right? But then later they're able to bring her back, and we know that it's something that actually was set up previously, not just, hey, we're introducing some random new villain.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Amaju mentioned this, which is a really good point. The innkeepers in Les Mis. When the mom is trying to like stay alive and keep her baby warm and stuff. But nope, these innkeepers, they have their own thing, and they're just being absolutely cold and not understanding. Makes sense that they aren't, because she's not paying and all that stuff, and they need to make ends meet and things like that. Yeah. But there you go, right?
For sure. Golden Witch, this is a very interesting line of questions here. In a story with a serious, darker tone, what do you think of such antagonistic characters pulling a kind of Thanatos gambit on the protagonist to haunt them beyond the grave with things said during their final moments? Some narrative where the antagonistic character making a statement that proves itself correct as time passes and thus is able to get in the head of the protagonist later down the story. So for those that don't know, the Thanatos Gambit is basically a TV trope kind of thing. I just literally had to look it up on TV tropes really quick because I remembered that it was a thing regarding death. But what it is they intentionally manipulate the circumstances of their death in a way that basically makes it feel like this was all as planned. This is something where I meant for things to go this way. I think that there are a lot of characters that do this. Usually they are the primary antagonists, though.
Yes.
I would say that...
And they have to have some Machiavellian level aspects to them.
Makishima is a great example of this.
Yeah. Even though, granted, for the Thanatos Gambit, one important distinction is that it's not actually all according to their plan, but it makes it seem like it might be, and it gets in the head of the protagonists.
Right. I would say that what is a better version of that for side characters that are antagonistic is one where the way that they passed from life basically left that mark that basically turns their influence that isn't even really their character into a sort of side antagonistic force. I would think Guts from Berserk has an example of this in his mentor, who Gambino ends up becoming this haunting side character force version of him, like his past, that he eventually is able to move past.
Right.
But in that moment there, Gambino had more of an effect on Guts, I would say, in the antagonistic way, in death, than he did in life.
Right. The idea that while they are a side character antagonist, they're a person that still lived.
Yes.
Right. And that can have consequences, and the consequences can be really juicy.
Yes. So there's some cool potential there. What about the characters of Princess Mononoke? Are there even antagonists?
There are definitely antagonists. Are there villains? Not really.
Right.
Antagonists, absolutely, because in a lot of ways they're all antagonists to each other.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the point, is that they need to figure out how to get along. They all have their thing that they're trying to do that might even be noble, right? But they come to blows because they have different perspectives on the world around them.
Amechu, do I qualify as an antagonistic side character, or am I an odd prop here?
That is an excellent question.
You're exactly who you are, Ameju. Just don't change. Just be you. You're cool. Fat12 Boy, thank you so much for the follow. Glad to have you here. Completely forgot today was Monday. Hey, Perv, welcome to the stream.
And excellent point, Perv. There are no hard rules to writing. Yes. Yep. So anytime, like there are things that, one thing will do something, right? Yep. So you understand what it is that thing does, and then where you want to use it versus you don't want to use it. It's a lot more common to give the depth and stuff to the more main villains and antagonists and things like that,
right?
Which is for a reason, right? You know, there is a very much a reason that happens, and there's a reason that a lot of the times people look down on the whole side antagonistic characters as just being throwaway, and you know, maybe it potentially even better off if they weren't there. But there are ways that you can do it that have a purpose behind them, and they can be incredibly powerful.
Yes, I would say one of the things we can get into is basically the moments when this is where people, I would say, feel a lot more realistic, is that people make decisions. This is a novel concept, I would say, for a lot of us, especially for me from 5 years ago, but people don't make decisions based on logic. They make decisions based on emotion.
Yep.
And there are times when we make mistakes as people. We don't necessarily think things through.
Yep.
So we can say or do things that make us antagonistic side characters in other people's lives. A great example of this is in A Place for the Universe. We have a character who is very much not a main cast member. She is not one of the main four girls.
And she's aware of that.
And she does a thing.
Yep.
I do not want to spoil this amazing show. If you have not seen A Place for the Universe, please do
watch it.
But if you watch the show, you know exactly who we're talking about.
And some of the best.
One of the best moments in the show is when she does something that turns her into an antagonistic side character.
And granted, it's hard to say best for Place for the Universe because all the episodes are the best.
It's just really good.
But it is so good. And the thing is, it's something where the character was in a lot of ways mean for the sake of being mean. Almost there was a reason for it that we ended up realizing,
right?
But it didn't seem that way at the start necessarily.
There's opportunities to do this, I would say, more specifically in the stories that are more compact and shorter. We talked about how it was easier to find these characters in the larger, grander scale stories because for the sake of pacing, you can't drag out certain conflicts forever. You have to have little mini conflicts coming in to provide, spice and new feelings of it being a dynamic story.
Yeah.
In a tighter, smaller, more compact story, sometimes you need to actually have these little bits of time where a character kind of deviates a bit from what their characterization was established in order to give development to them later, and have that little bit of deviation be surprising to the main cast as they're like, hey, what's going on? Why are you acting like this?
Right.
It's not something where they're contradicting their character slightly. It's basically saying, hey, they're dealing with the fact they're a reactionary character at that point, reacting to the protagonist's proactiveness. And this is a specific example from A Place for the Universe, but it allows them to be that side character antagonist, even without really being a true antagonist. It's just they made a decision that was antagonistic. We got some bits from Jad the Mad here. It's a 1 of 3 post. Okay. You mentioned lore villains earlier, and antagonists who don't impact the plot much but have massive implications for the world. Okay, one of my favorite examples of this is Lady Maria from Bloodborne. At first, she seems pretty irrelevant in the story. She's dead from the outside of the story, and all we know is she's a highly favored student of the First Hunter, one of the main villains, Gehrman. Gotcha. But then we meet her in the Hunter's Nightmare, and what we see completely reflames Gehrman as a character, and you realize that the sentient porcelain doll, Gehrman's only company in the Hunter's dream and the person you visit to level up, is an exact replica of Maria. Gehrman didn't just favor her, he was maniacally obsessed with her. Then you fight her, and you can kind of see why. In a game where you spend your time slaughtering gothic undead and eldritch monstrosities, Maria's double-bladed sword, energy blades of burning blood, and explosive transformations, wow, edgy, have more in common with anime. It's badass. But if you're not paying attention to little bits of lore, all of it is a cool boss fight. All it is a cool boss fight. Just another maddened hunter to kill, saving them from the nightmare and allowing you to move forward. Okay, so
I know nothing about Bloodborne.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get a lot of that, but what it sounds like is that it was a way to build the world, and I would say establish more characterization for the mechanics behind the main villain.
Or even the main character, too, since apparently it has something to do with you leveling up and whatnot.
Golden Witch, is there a way I could have you somehow check the idea I had in mind and check there is a potential as a character? I got a very good feeling you know your stuff and I could use the feedback.
So this was the thing of the main character that becomes a side antagonist. Short story is yes, but it's very difficult, and it might be something that your audience doesn't necessarily want to see. But if you do something with the dual main characters, for instance, it gets a lot easier, because then you're not actually making it so that they're not a main character. It's that in a portion of the story, they're not a main character. So it's kind of both at the same time rather than transitioning.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree with Jacob for sure. Perv says, that reminds me of a webtoon I'm reading where the father doesn't want her daughter to learn martial arts, even though we, the reader, know she's better than her brothers. Wait, what reminds me of that? The father basically became an antagonistic force in the moment by making an emotional decision.
Right.
Gotcha. Yes. That, okay. Oh my gosh. This is something that actually is really funny in terms of, I would say one of my least liked things of the antagonistic force main decision thing is that you will have members of the main cast do these types of decisions specifically to derail the main character's goal so that we can actually have a conflict, because there's the idea that this this goal that they've got, they can't bring out enough conflict from the goal itself. Like, we can't show the main character just struggling to achieve the goal. We have to sacrifice part of the main character's cast characterization in order to provide melodrama, hence conflict, etc. I dislike this general type of thing immensely if it is not handled really well. I see it in a lot of coming-of-age stories where specifically the parents, who are usually a main part of the story, will just say dumb parent stuff because melodrama and our main character just can't have the goal that they want be just a difficult goal.
Right.
It has to be that the parents are holding them back for the sake of melodrama.
And there's reasons why doing that can be a really good thing if you do it properly, because the whole idea of the coming of age story and the young person basically needing to break free of the old and realize what, like, decide for themselves and things like that, and be that iterative development for the next generation, right? But while also realizing, and this is the important part, realizing what from the previous generation and the old is important and needs to be kept and valued.
Gotcha.
But if you can't do that, that's why having these antagonistic side characters can be a helpful alternative, because then you can offload it so that all of that stuff is concentrated in a localized other space that doesn't have to tarnish any of your other characters that you want to be able to be taken very seriously at all points.
Yeah. An example, I would say, of a trope like this where they'd rather not sacrifice any of the main cast is they prop up the bully type character. I would say an example of a story that comes close to these types of things pretty often are a lot of the stories where you have the school setting. Harry Potter, for instance, definitely has Malfoy as the bully character, and he's a lot better, characterized in the in the books, obviously. But he is essentially the Potter, Potter, and bringing up that antagonistic force there. But there are very few times, I would say, in actually, let me bring up the examples of where it does come up. Sorry, what were we going to say?
Well, I would say the Malfoys are a fantastic example. When I was thinking of Harry Potter and how Harry Potter does this a lot, I didn't actually think of Malfoy, but now that you mention it, it's a great point. Dudley is another example of that, but even Dudley, like, we only get a little bit of it later. But if you think about Harry Potter as a whole, the Malfoys are just those, basically just mean antagonists, for a large portion of the story. But then later on, we actually do start to see some actual depth and characterization to them, that they're not just those people, right?
Right.
In many ways, you could still see it as being something where it's trying to make up for all the times where they were just two-dimensional. But who's to say? Who knows?
Yeah. Actually, here's an example in Harry Potter that I think is rather good. The movies didn't have enough time to get into this, so they didn't really as much. And that's something I think the books do a little bit better. And that is the difference between Mama Dudley and Papa Dudley. Papa Dudley is very much a bully type, just, Mama Dudley has the added complication of being the sister of Harry's mother.
So she's bitter.
But she is not actually there creating drama as much for the sake of, being the bully.
Well, it's something that's personal as opposed to just, or whatever, I'm
Yes.
Yeah.
When she is antagonistic towards Harry, it is in line with her character rather than the shtick that she has specifically created.
Yes.
So if you're going to have melodrama, essentially, I mean, you can have good melodrama is what I'm saying. Have it be through like the only bits of characterization and motivation that you've given to those side character antagonists. Like, do not deviate. And beating the audience over the head with letting them know that it's only going to be coming from this area lets them know that this character actually cares about that thing that they're, bringing out melodrama from.
Well, and it
makes
also,
it important to them.
And it also can be weirdly comforting in a way when it's coming from your author, because the author is basically saying, I understand that you might not like this, but I also understand that even more than you maybe not liking this, you really wouldn't like it to be in other places of the story.
Oh, sure.
So I'm going to let you know that it's going to be here, and you might not like that it's there, and okay, but it's only going to be here. This is where you can expect it, and it won't go anywhere else.
Yeah. We have some meme stuff from Mom Issue here. I'm just skipping that.
Domekano. Yeah.
Perv, you're talking about the previous thing, but in that webtoon the protagonist is the father. Gotcha.
So that does one of those transitions kind of.
Yeah, to where they have that little bit of antagonism towards the side
and
character,
that's another aspect of basically saying that it can be a really good thing to have your characters, even potentially your main characters, do things that are basically make mistakes, show where they really are not a perfect person, right? And in some ways that can be done for the sake of melodrama, but if you keep in mind why they're doing it, and you don't just forget it, right? And you don't just use it as like a button that you just continuously press, like just whenever you need there to be drama and never address it, right? Because then again, that's not entertaining. Which is something though that you could do with a side character, because they don't have to be the main character.
Yes, and that's my point earlier, was that I would rather you press the button than doing something that actually breaks characterization. You can get away with pressing the button the less important they are in the story.
Exactly.
An example of this is in Haikyuu. A lot of the characters that are antagonistic, if you will, Tendo, for instance, from Shiratorizawa, is a great example of a silly, ridiculous side antagonistic character. He very much tries to get in the head of both Tsukishima and Hinata. He does a very good job at it. But the button that you basically press within that is very much something in line with his character. His troll personality is one where he's going to keep doing this. And he's in the middle of the game, so there's no reason for him to stop.
So, Cychronia. Dolores Umbridge is very much a side antagonist, but I don't think anyone can say she's a good one. Pretty sure people hate her more than Voldemort.
Wait.
More people hate her
than
Voldemort.
A good one in terms of like moral or what?
Yeah. So
I'm confused.
I think what you mean is that she is not at all a good person. Like, she's not one of those side characters that ends up getting some redemptive aspect to her or whatever, right? But the thing is,
she's pretty villainous.
Right, she's very villainous.
Yeah.
But she does it incredibly well. And better than Voldemort. And in a lot of ways, it's because she's the side character. She's the side character antagonist, and we don't need to see her perspective on things because we know that there must have been something that went wrong, whatever, but it doesn't matter. This is where she's at right now, and she is a mean, cruel, bitter person, whatever it is, right? And we just want to see her get taken off by the centaurs and maybe strung up as an example. I don't know where did that come from, but the thing is that that's something that kind of Voldemort's whole that kind of falls short in that regard, right? And yet she's able to do this with much less screen time.
I feel like a good side character makes a strong impact to the reader, but not the plot. Jardel, 201, I think you just hit the nail on the head with this here. Part of the thing that is important about the side character is that while, yes, you could be like a Rocky and just experiment with ideas back and forth and just be like, let's throw this in there, let's throw this in there. I think that part of a side character's main purpose in the story is to add to immersion, to add to that feeling of the experience of being enraptured in this story. So they don't really bring anything to the main plot, but they somehow add immersion. That is definitely something where this is for the reader more so than the main cast in a way. And I definitely like that. And maybe in some ways that is why side antagonistic characters end up being some of the fan favorites. Like, why is it? I know Hisoka is a pretty big deal in Hunter x Hunter, but why is Hisoka like the most popular character in Hunter x Hunter?
Right, because if you think about it, he's a main antagonist for a while, and he was the first main antagonist. So that probably has a lot to do.
That probably has a lot to do with it,
right?
Yeah,
but
we rarely see things from his perspective,
right? And I think it's the fact that in a lot of ways he does have a big impact on the plot because he's not tied up with being a villain. He is an antagonist to everyone.
Sure.
To everyone.
Sure.
So it causes a lot of interesting things to happen in the plot, which makes people like it.
Okay. All right. Missed a couple things here. Director Krennic. He started as an antagonist, side to Tarkin, but now he's Lord of the Memes. Are we blind? Deploy the Domeicano memes. Oh my god. Oh wow. It's an ironic situation. She is absolutely a great villain in the sense that you love to hate her. What I mean is that she doesn't have that depth to make her a good character.
Right.
Oh.
And yet she totally serves her purpose perfectly.
Oh, I see what she's saying.
And that's why I think it's so important to realize that you don't necessarily have to give the side antagonists depth in order to make them good. You can, and you can do a lot of awesome things when you do that. But especially when they're side antagonists, right? There are some amazing things that you can do because they don't have a lot of screen time.
Right. Hisoka, Shia Puff, and Pariston are the fan favorites. Oh, okay, good to know. Good to know.
No, the fandom is just horny for Hisoka. Gotcha.
Because he's so involved, but let's be real, he's just so cool. Okay, so an example of this in... Well, no, he's more of a protagonist. Never mind. I was about to bring up a book character that I think is like definitely one of those like fan favorites that brings that out there. Massacre. Just give them a wacky personality, ability, look, quirks like Araki does. Now, see, this is
that kind of works, but
this is maybe the thing that I wonder though. Is it not actually their uniqueness, but is that their freedom within the plot allows the reader to insert all this extra stuff into the character?
Or is it that their freedom in the plot allows the writer to inject all this extra stuff in there?
But they usually don't because they're a side character. No. They get less screen time.
No. Right. But the thing is that means that when they are there, because they don't have any weight to carry in the plot, the times that they are there, it's free time. It's the idea of like the high school kid that has the summer job but doesn't have any expenses.
Sure.
So they kind of have more like actual cash flow than their parents that like have all the bills to pay and stuff. You know?
Wow, that's a very specific example.
Right. But but
that didn't come from real life experience at all, did it?
No, exactly. But those kinds of things where because their screen time that they do have can be pretty much spent to do whatever, right? You can characterize them in very specific ways, in very different, weird ways, and because they don't have importance in the plot, you won't have to worry about it being a wrecking ball, you know.
Psychronia, we literally talked about Django's Dance Paradise in the Oda cover stories before the podcast. Yes, we're talking about that kind of stuff exactly.
Yep.
It's not a great story what Django's doing there.
It's a very
simple. No, what I mean, great is such a vague word. It's not an ambitious story,
right?
And that's like, oh, that's obvious. But no, I mean, it's a very simple story. There's almost no story to it.
But that's the beauty of it. It's like don't see that as a weakness. It is a gift.
It is a gift to the foes of Mordor.
Yeah.
Why not use this ring? Sorry,
right,
Ameju, I'm trying to tap into your energy, and I love it. By the way, keep being you. Yeah, exactly like that. The laws of causality govern the flow of paths. There is no escape. They together form a society. Oh my god. If you think about all the strong characters before York knew, Hisoka really stands out. He is the most interesting design. Strong gives a power scaling ceiling.
That is true.
Oh, he kind of does.
Although Netero's also there.
Yeah, but Netero doesn't.
He doesn't really display what he can do.
He doesn't display it as much. Yeah, it's more of the stuff that they got in. That's probably the reason why Heaven's Arena is so important to have Hisoka in it. If I analyze basically Hunter x Hunter's progression of arcs, there's a important reason why Heaven's Arena specifically didn't introduce a new antagonist. It took Hisoka and literally had him be the gate holder of the Heaven's Arena bit there. I can almost feel like Togashi being like, ha 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 ha, yes, Hisoka, this character who defies all archetypes, I'm going to put you in as basically the wall so that if our protagonists wish to proceed, they must overcome it. That's actually a really interesting point that I never really credited Heaven's Arena for. Huh.
What?
Oh, just Hisoka's role in the story of Heaven's Arena literally pulls up a huge portion of the whole thing. I mean, it's not just Gon trying to give back the token, the badge.
Yeah.
But it's actually his position in the story specifically when he's antagonistic. It's literally just him sitting in the hallway of, you'd like to progress? You know,
right.
I think in terms of what that represents, and provides this very, I don't know, very interesting milestone, I would say almost pillar for the whole story. Because if he had just been like, I'm at the top, make it there.
And if anything, the ways that Heaven's Arena probably could have been made better is if Hisoka had more of a role as an antagonistic force throughout it.
Yeah, remove the bullies, basically.
Right, like how that would have been done.
I don't know. Actually, that's a good point. That
like who knows?
Have a good
maybe there wouldn't have been a better way to do that. But if somehow they had, that would have been amazing. Right?
Yeah, it's actually a great point. The antagonistic side characters in Heaven's Arena were literally there for world building, because it is the world building arc. Like, it's a huge bit of Nen building,
specifically the Nen. Yeah,
I mean, but also just the fact that that's why they were all disabled,
right?
Because they had, because they have been pulverized in order to realize that, oh yeah, we need Nen. That's why,
right?
Anyway, Mesker bringing up the Phantom Troop. Honestly, the fact that all the Phantom Troop are smash hits, I don't know how the Madman did it, but it feels almost unnatural. Jacob and I had another conversation about that, about whether or not Crollo is actually the antagonistic side character of York New, because he's kind of the leader of the Phantom Troop, and he is also the main antagonist for Hisoka's kind of aspect of that. And Kurapika in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and Kurapika.
But Uvogin might actually be the one that ends up taking that role in a little bit of a better way.
Right, like truly stole the spotlight, because even though, and even from the standpoint of in the narrative of York New, he is very much a side character. Now, he's given a lot of focus when he's given focus, but he in it, if you were to take him by himself, right, he is a character that is introduced, that's built up to be the badass, that then is sacrificed to build up the other character as being even more of a badass, right?
Yeah, they literally had a badass one-upping before we even got to that bit, which was him defeating, all the
shadow beasts in the gang.
And all the mafia, and then the shadow beasts come.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Wipes them out.
So that way, when the main conflict of York New happens, which the fact that it's tied to Uvogin's death is amazing for characterizing the Phantom Troop and Kurapika and everything, right? But now the stakes have been set.
Yeah.
Kurapika is a legitimate threat, and the Phantom Troop are legitimate threats. Boom, let's see what happens.
And then chaos in York New City.
Exactly,
and there we go.
Yeah.
One of the best aspects of the plot of the York New arc, in a way that makes it, I even would say, there's many reasons why it's on par, and in some areas greater than the Chimera Ant arc, like some areas, mind you. But that is specifically the way the characters and their actions lead towards consequences that build up all the characters involved.
Right.
It's something where little actions by Uvogin and Kurapika lead to these big moments and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit more time here. I would say let's get some questions from all y'all.
Yeah.
So if you had questions that weren't able to pass in here, let's see them. Oh, random question, Caleb. Have you seen the Godfather movies? If so, I'd say Carlo in 1 and the Senator in 2 serve as pretty decent minor antags. I haven't seen the Godfather movies, like all of them, but I saw the first one like forever ago. Yeah, so I don't really remember the gist of it.
Yeah, I saw the first one like a year ago, and I can't even remember who Carlo was.
Yeah.
Reaction? No. Those movies are like 3 hours long.
I'm good.
How you doing?
How you doing?
You know, Munchkiny, I'm doing great. If you noticed, I'm wearing this hat, which I absolutely love because it's warm and I can
so fuzzy and wonderful.
And I can't wear hats in general, so the fact that I actually can wear, like, look at this monster. It
actually covers his massive 200 IQ brain.
Like, I have never had a hat that I can like fit on my head comfortably, much less have excess. So that's wonderful. But also, it's Christmas time, baby.
Yeah.
It's basically Christmas time. I know Thanksgiving hasn't happened yet and all that stuff for all you US people, but I'm pretty happy.
I'm also doing rather well. I've had a lot of cool little personal life things that are little wins and awesome things and stuff. Like, I've got a girlfriend now, so that's
Indeed.
Really awesome.
Yes.
Things have been going well there. I've been, I would say, just kind of moving things right along. Time's kind of slowed down in a lot of ways, which feels really good. So I feel like I'm enjoying more things in the present. So thanks for asking. Yeah.
And I'm gonna be rewatching the Disappearance movie around Christmas time. So that's another awesome thing. And I've also been listening to Blumenkranz on repeat a lot. Which is just it does my heart so much good. It's so weird being so into such a Despicable Villains theme song, but it's so good. Yeah.
What's that on Jacob's shirt?
Oh, it is a tempura shrimp. This is a shirt that Hina
references many things, but
wore in A Place Further Than the Universe.
Yes.
So which again, great show.
Great show.
You should watch it.
Watch it.
Indeed, it was too big to be. It could barely be called a hat. It was more like a helmet. Yeah.
Pencil Sharp 333. I haven't gotten into the Discord yet. Oh, make sure to sync up your Twitch and Discord accounts, and it'll just put you right in. You are a subscriber, so you get access to that.
And yes, not that Hina. That Hina, Domicano, different Hina.
Yes. Yeah. Jacob obtained wool helm of cold resistance plus 3.
Basically, like I know that seems so silly, but really, I've never had a hat that can do this before.
But can it do this?
But can it do this? I can wear this thing over headphones, like a full-on headset, like headphones.
We need to do something to scale. So, guys, I have pretty big hands, right? Like, not, those types
this is a 32-ounce hands. Cup, right?
There you go. Yeah.
This is a 32-ounce cup.
His head is huge. Practically swollen. And the fact that almost none of those size fits. Oh, my God. We are going to show them this.
So this is a Joseph Joestar mouse pad. As you can see, it's amazing. But that is the size of this hat.
I mean, to scale with these bahungas here.
Exactly.
You can definitely see where it's definitely quite large. Yes.
Jacob is one of those classes that you can hardly ever get compatible equipment for. Yeah.
True.
Pretty much.
There are so many weird things that I have the same problems with as well. My feet aren't large by any means. I'm just tall, but I actually have wide feet. So I can't get cleats without actually breaking them or spending weird amounts of money in order to custom order things or what have you. So there's all kinds of problems with stuff like that. But
summer t-shirt against heat plus hat against cold. The ultimate combo.
Indeed. The only best girl in the JoJo franchise. I completely disagree. Lisa is fantastic.
Lisa is fantastic.
Also,
Stroheim is best girl.
Also
Speedwagon.
And also, I'm going to bring up Josuke's mom.
Okay, Josuke's mom is awesome.
She handled Angelo like it was nothing.
You remember his name.
But
the thing is, she's not quite on the level as Lisa and everybody else. She's awesome, but she's not quite on the same level. I do find it funny though that most of the best girls from JoJo's, only one of them, is actually female.
Gotcha.
But
that's true. Yeah. That's true.
Comparing one's head with mousepad memories.
Nice.
Yep.
Yes.
So Jacob is like a warrior that uses staves as main hand and leather armor. I mean, why not?
Why not make life a little bit more, difficult? A little bit more interesting.
What do I have to bribe you to watch Grand Blue? From my point of view, the polls are evil. Lisa and Speedwagon, best girls.
So we've had a lot of shows nearing their being towards heading near their turnover spot. So Grand Blue might not be on a poll again for a decent bit of time, but it's got that opportunity to happen. Where did I get this shirt? I got this one from someone in an unboxing.
Yes.
So I don't know where this shirt came from.
If you could choose any character in Monogatari to get an arc from their perspective, who would it be? Hands down, Shinobu.
Okay, from their perspective?
From their perspective.
So in addition to what we've currently seen, it doesn't have to be someone that's already...
Yeah, in addition to what we've currently seen. Although
it doesn't
I
have to be someone that hasn't gotten one yet.
If it could be you want another arc from their perspective, I suppose that could work too.
Okay. Yeah, I would say if it's a character that I haven't seen anything from their perspective, I really want it to be Gain.
Gain? Really?
Yes. Or really? Araragi's mom.
Okay.
Like,
Araragi's
either
mom,
of those two.
Mama Aragi needs to just come back into the story.
Can we get...
What about Kaiki?
Kaiki, I feel like I've already got a lot
episode, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like Kaiki, like I feel like Kaiki's already got so much right now that if anything, just having him be around would be great. But I don't need necessarily like a full arc from his perspective because he's so just.
Yeah.
Like,
but
I wouldn't find that as engaging.
But that's the reason. That's the reason that I want Shinobu to get a perspective arc. Because her well, yeah, but the thing is, it's not just about her as a character, but I feel like her perspective, from a literal sense, would be the most different from most everybody else because she's in Araragi's shadow a lot of the time, right? So it would almost feel like a commentary where Araragi's going and doing his thing, and she's just like, wow, yeah, he's doing this. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, he really thinks that's a witty thing to say here, or something like that, and then she's like, all right, I need to get some donuts,
Hey, Bloodhawk Flaw, good to see you here. I made it through a stream without sending bits. You can thank the wife. Thank you, Bloodhawk Flock's wife, saving this man from giving so many bits away. Wow, Lisa lost the rights for Best Girl once Cars used her legs as a guitar.
When did perverted old man abandon reason for madness?
Yeah, I love when old guys in movies like that will just have their moment of just quiet and then 0 to 100.
Oh, yeah.
Like Bilbo. No, it's Odin. It's Odin.
Oh yeah, right.
You're unworthy, Father. Like, yeah. It's so silly. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The worst villain in JoJo's are the failed memories of Araki. I am the Senate.
Yeah. Treason then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Didn't
man.
Cars play the ED with the leg guitar? Oh my god. I didn't even notice if he was actually trying to sing something. I just heard him going doom 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 doom. It was so memey.
Remember when I shipped Lisa and Joseph?
Nice.
I hadn't even read Domestic Girlfriend yet.
Your inner you knew what you wanted internally.
Oh my god.
Princess Grimoire, have you ever been rooting for a show to win one of the polls that didn't? Of course, yeah. We root for almost all the shows that we put in the poll. There are obviously ones where we root for them more than others, but all the shows that we put on polls are ones that we want to watch.
Right. So I feel
that's why we don't end up having to drop shows, is because
most of the time I will say when I'm rooting for a show the most, it's when it's been on a ton of polls and keeps losing.
Rakugo.
So
Rakugo's story.
Anohana. Where I'm like, you can do it. Go.
Those poor half-blind shows that will just never be watched to. Daily Lives of High School Boys is just never going to happen as a reaction, Jacob.
Spice and Wolf. We can't, we need to show the world, people. We need to show the world the amazingness, the glorious, wonderful experience that is being taught economics by J. Michael Tatum and a wolf girl, a sexy wolf girl. Even though we don't react to things in the dub, that's something that needs to happen.
Tiabu is doing in Spice and Wolf right now, and it's insanely good. Way to go,
man.
Buddy.
Good for him.
You
good
absolute
for him.
Cultured individual.
Yep.
All right.
Like the snail race in Undertale. Exactly. Go.
Yes,
go.
I have seen that meme, Mesker. It's a pretty funny meme. Even less people know about 1 Ounce, so feel my pain knowing it will never be watched. 1 Ounce was on a poll. ACAP 22. 1 Ounce was actually put on one of the polls. You can thank me for that.
Legend of the Galactic Heroes? We put that on one poll and it took 2nd place. Like, you'd think something that was like 40 years old or whatever it is would like, I can't remember exactly how old it is, but would not do as well, but nope. Apparently not.
Yeah. Legend of the Galactic Heroes, that would be interesting to
oh boy. Yeah. You like Domekano? Try Yosuga no Sora, Children of Hurin, Akisora, Emergence, and much, much more.
God damn it, I made you.
Okay.
What is it with you and your cursed recommendations?
Okay, I know that you don't want to ever read the Domestic Girlfriend manga, Caleb, right? I know you don't ever want to read Domekano. There was the most wholesome, like, basically winter kind of Christmas vacation story ever. It was so sweet. It was so sweet.
I mean, you have to care about the characters in order to
they make you care about the characters plenty.
Sure.
Believe me, because they don't cut out entire arcs like they do in the anime.
I mean, if we ever did Legend of the Galactic Heroes, we would do the old one, the original. Because I mean, then we would just watch the new one probably on our own time,
right?
Because I mean, it's just a remake, right?
Well, and plus, like, you know, might as well see what the visuals were like back then. You know, see how they did things. Like because I think I've seen like images of like how like with them when the ships fire, it's basically just like a bunch of little lines, you know, that get traveled for like the guns. That actually sounds kind of retro and cool. Like I'm actually like excited to see that, you know, when we do end up hopefully reacting to it.
What about Kaiji? Kaiji is a must. Kaiji has been on a poll. It'll be on a poll again in the future. Don't worry. That's one that I specifically have been pushing for to have happen. Oh, look, a free iPad. Thank you so much for the follow. And Squeaky with the Twitch Prime for 12 months. Wait, Squeaky, does that give you the diamond magnet?
I think so.
I don't know.
I think so.
It might be. It might be the last month. It might be 13 months once you get the diamond magnet. I'm not sure.
Also, while we have y'all here, because it's coming up on Christmas time, y'all, we need more Christmas episodes in anime. We need the Ping Pong episode 6s, the Toradora episode 19s, you know, like, and just Tokyo Godfathers and Disappearance movies. Like we need more Christmas stuff in anime. It needs to happen.
Mesker, no, you're going to be a legend forever because, like, this stream is not going anywhere anytime soon. So imagine, like, you know, like 3 years from now, if you, like, randomly show up again and you'll just be like, hey, back in my day, the diamond magnet was a new thing. Now we have all of these weird, like, you know, violet versions of magnets.
Yeah.
And we've got, like...
Exactly. Does Battle Lines have Christmas?
Battle Lines has some slice of life.
It has slice of life.
Stuff.
It doesn't have Christmas per se. I really wanted to have something
opportunity, Jay.
Yeah, I know that, but with one book, there's only so much that can fit in there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But, damn, 3 years stream? No, Dan. 3 years from now, you know. But seriously, Jacob, try it. Oh my gosh. Delicious art, plot, and excellent depth-filled characterization. Oh my god!
I read some of
I'm sure their depths are definitely
and that was
filled
actually,
at multiple
there
points.
There were some pretty good parts in that.
A lot of the shows you guys watch are shows my anime-loving IRLs haven't watched or heard of, like Devil's a Part-Timer and Promised Neverland. There's another 2 that you've done they haven't heard of, but I'm honestly surprised how popular these shows are because none of my college unofficial anime club have heard of them. Princess Grimoire.
Well, then
you need to do the good fight and go out there and
Deus Vult.
Yes.
that just means they have fun times ahead of them.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
What have they seen? Just like Bleach and Naruto and One Piece and stuff. Like
this is okay. I recently had an experience with this very recently, and let me tell you about this sad experience and what it was. I was very much connecting with some good friends, right? And it was over D&D. And it was this moment of just like, oh, cool. They're not only like D&D, but they like anime. And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. But I, was the one being called out for, sure, you just say you like anime. And they're like, what have you actually watched, though?
Wait. Someone actually,
they didn't know me. They didn't know what I do. So they had a moment where they were like, in order to prove that you're a good anime fan, give me 3 shows.
So you didn't just go.
Well, I was nice, Jacob. What I said was, I was like, okay, 3 shows that would be to showcase that I'm a true anime fan and that I like anime in all forms. I pulled out Ping Pong the animation.
Yeah. Monster.
I pulled out Monster. Yes. I pulled out what was the one? It was a comedy.
Fumofu? No.
No. Crud.
Konosuba.
I don't think it was Konosuba. It might have been Fumofu, actually. No, it was Nichijou.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I pulled out Nichijou, Monster, and Ping Pong the animation. I'm like, I've covered all the bases there. Monster's, relatively mainstream. But they looked at me, deadpan, and just had this moment of, hold on, let me look those up. And they didn't know any of them.
Yeah.
And it was just this thing of like, yes. And I was just like, so what are your favorite anime? They were like,
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood?
No, it was even worse. It was like Fairy Tail and Black Clover and, Boruto. And I just had this moment where I was like,
it's like when you
ask... I'm like, all right, restraint. I'm like, those are some great, good starter anime. Like, that's awesome. Like, what are some of the ones you're watching now that are seasonal? I'm like,
you underestimate my power.
I'm like, do not smite them. We need to become friends here. Like, do not. So the conversation continued, and they were like, I'm very much enjoying Vinland Saga. I was like, hey, that's awesome. Props to you for watching a show that's being distributed on Amazon. Like, very few people are doing that these days. They're like, yeah, it's a little slow though. And I was just like, like they were talking about long-running shonen, and then they were saying how Vinland Saga was slow, and I'm just like, Caleb, let's be friends here. Just like, breathe. But I just wanted to make you guys laugh at that because it was a beautiful moment of just
what
patience.
Did you just say? Yeah. That's amazing.
It's the listen here, you little shit kind of meme.
Yeah,
but
I've toured, 6 times.
But there's a problem, I would say, legitimately with people that have watched too much anime. Not too much, but just a lot. A cultured amount.
Being like, you're not a true anime. I'm sorry.
And yet there are people out there that give the, oh, you're not a true anime fan if you haven't watched these. And I'm like, fine, I'll answer your question, sure. But it's like
but the fact that they took that stance, and it's like
yeah, but I it felt like a teaching moment because someone earlier was saying there's a lot of people in their anime club that haven't watched anime.
Yes, right.
Be patient with them and bring them into the wondrous thing that's saying like there's so much out there still that they haven't seen. But don't condescend to them and make this about this thing of like
let them be slowly made sweet love to by all the anime series that are out there. Don't try and force them into anything. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't end up becoming kind of that elitist asshole that's like,
totally.
Yeah. But I did feel a little bit antagonized against because I was getting the called into question of like, but your PP is small. Like you obviously don't really watch anime.
Mine is 3 inches long.
You're just a white guy, Like it was literally like that, like kind of an awkward thing of like, well, I mean, I didn't know. They could have been someone that's watched 500 anime, and I'm like,
definitely.
Yeah, I think I've watched a lot of anime.
So I had an experience kind of like that.
Okay.
Now, the person wasn't antagonistic, but it was something where I am very much a Star Wars person. So are you, right?
Yes.
And some of the people in my workplace, at the place that we worked at during summers, right? They mentioned that one of the other people that they knew better than I did, they were like, oh, this person's totally into Star Wars. You should talk to them. I'm like, oh, awesome. Someone who's really passionate about Star Wars in this town of under 400 people. Great. Right? So I go up to them and I'm like, oh yeah, I heard, from so-and-so that you're really into Star Wars. That's awesome. I love Star Wars too. Who's your favorite character? And they were like, oh, Mace Windu. They're like, I don't know. It's kind of tough, but Mace Windu. Mace Windu's pretty badass. I'm like, cool. Yeah. And and I'm thinking like, wait a minute. They just said a character from the movies. Hold on a second. What kind of a Star Wars fan am I dealing with? Are they just a fan of the movies? Have they played any of the games, read any of the books, or anything like that? Turns out they hadn't. Right. But it was one of those things of like, Oh, right. Yes. So if it was the reverse, where someone, like, if someone came up to me and was like, oh, well, and even more so with anime because we literally do it for a living. But if it was like for Star Wars and it's like, oh, you're a Star Wars fan, huh? Yeah, I'll bet you don't even know, like, the name of the guy with the purple lightsaber. Like, like, it'd be like...
We should do actually a little bit of a podcast maybe on the idea of gatekeeping and elitism and I would say condescension with regards to these topics. It'd be kind of interesting. Do they know you do Frisbee? Maybe that's why they think you're a Chad. Yes, that was a topic of connection, yes. Since you two watched Konosuba, did you hear the Pulp Fiction writer reviewed the Konosuba movie and rated it a 5 out of 5, calling it one of the best cinematic experiences?
Wait, what? What?
As it should be. Konosuba is one of the best sitcom anime.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic.
Ever. Amazing stuff.
That's awesome.
Beautiful. Now, are you telling the truth, Golden Witch? Because I do somewhat
fact check that.
I do somewhat doubt you, though.
Yeah.
He said, "I dare say cinema was invented for this." Link.
Wow.
Link me this. I need to see this.
We need to see this. Oh man.
Link it to me in wherever the things are where it makes most sense. Please do it. Thank you. Yes. We'll see about reacting to the movie. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. It depends.
He did. He said that. Wow.
Is this a fellow elite? A chosen one like I? Or are they, God forbid, a normie? Oh my. His name is Roger Avari, or Avery, or what have you. I gotta see this. That's amazing.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's so good.
That's wonderful. I think we can't top that. I don't think this stream can reach a point that's better than that and your story, Caleb.
Yeah, my story is one that I was waiting to share on a podcast like this, and even though it doesn't have any relevance to the whole thing here, I was encountered with a side character antagonist in my story.
Ah, there you go.
And rather than be an asshole, I decided to try and build a connection there. Yeah. Although I do have a problem with having my facial expressions just give off the actual vibe I'm thinking of.
Where they say that and you're
like there's this little twitch in my left eye when they said fairy tale. I'm just like kind of like at least say One Piece, like, so I can know you're like a crazy mad lad.
I've heard fairy tale has some really great moments. I've also heard it commonly referred to as fairy fail. So, yeah.
Outside boxer, I get so annoyed with at least people I run across on like anime forums. Why not just show your friends ping pong and don't shame them for not knowing?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So there was oh man.
Wait, I watched the Konosuba movie and I counted the number of times the audience burst into laughter. 72.
Oh my God, it's spreading.
That's amazing.
That is fantastic.
Kai's JD, thank you so much for the follow. How to introduce some anime to someone that is disgusted at even hearing the word? I know some shows my friends would really love, but don't give it a chance. It's just in the anime art style. That's okay. You do not need to introduce everyone to anime. Mm-hmm. But if you want to get tactical with this, if you like to have everything be Keikakudori and you're willing to play the long game, I should open
I'm gonna take a potato chip and eat it.
Okay, let me take this one and just a Mimi spin for a little bit. I should be basically like the Tai Lopez with those dumb ads where I'm like, if you want to introduce people to all this knowledge that you have here, I'm going to coach you on the 27 steps to turn anyone into an anime fan. Wow. I would be legitimately...
Join my program for $67 a month.
Yeah, no. It would be really cheap.
67 cents a month.
Yes, $6.70 a month or what have you, and just meme this whole thing. But actually, when people get in, I'm like, I will give you legitimate step-by-step things of how to turn people into anime fans. The thing is, it takes years. Let me just tell you, it takes years.
But sweet victory.
But it's also like personal development. You have to turn yourself into an anime fan.
So you find 5 people that you can turn into anime fans, and then you get them to find 5 people. No, it's really simple.
No, we're not making a cult here. No.
It's a personal development program.
Oh my God. No.
You learn and you earn.
Oh my god. Insert that one clip of Light saying, "I won."
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Watch anime next to them. T-pose to assert dominance.
Nuxtaku makes a pretty good case for liking Fairy Tail for me. People can pick on it, but you enjoy what you want, man. Well said, Cychronia. Well said. Well said, yeah.
You see my anime fan wife here. You too can have one.
Oh. That's true. That's true. Also, I would say though, in a little bit of ways, let's actually take a little bit of step back here, because what I actually was saying earlier was more me memeing. It can actually sound a little creepy when you break down the bits of, like, you take out what the context is, and it sounds actually a little like manipulative. One of the things that Jacob and I have experienced, and it's rather cool, is just because of the channel, because of the conversation that happens where people ask questions about, like, what do you do? Like, what? Because of that, then it makes it easier for people to then go, oh, we should take this stuff seriously. This is what the kids are doing, you know?
Yeah.
So there's not this really grand Keikaku Machiavellian scheme to do it.
Wow.
But there are actually legitimate steps that don't cross any weird boundaries, in my opinion.
Right.
And actually help people become anime fans.
As an example, when I got Caleb and you know, our parents and a bunch of our extended family and most of our whole family and my grandma and stuff like that to watch A Silent Voice in theaters, it was first get Dad and say, I would really love to spend time with you watching this movie. It's my favorite movie, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then from there, go to the next person and the next person. Then you've got a little core bit of people. And then it's just, do you want to watch this movie with the rest of the family? It would mean a lot to me, you know.
Mesker, that's hilarious. Caleb, what I say cannot be used against me in the court of law.
I did not have a Machiavellian plan for getting my family to watch anime.
No, but I do have a story I can tell you guys about.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so this is one where I actually did use, I would say, some of these skills specifically.
Neuro-linguistic programming. And
No, I would say it's basically just social engineering, specifically with regards to connections and friends and what have you. So I have this show, Avatar: The Last Airbender, that I think is one of the greatest shows of all time. Just shows. It's obviously animated, but it is an amazing show. It's one of the best fantasy shows out there, at least. Okay, I want a lot of my friends to watch it. But the thing is that what I actually really want is people that will end up discussing these types of shows with me. More people like Jacob, exactly. Yeah. So what I did was I took this group of friends that I had and figured out, over the course of probably about 3 months, which one was the extroverted leader of the group. The one with the most influence in terms of, like, you know, deciding what they would do for social activities and what have you.
Yeah.
And I basically specifically, like, took efforts to become a good friend of his and find out what he's passionate about. He is very passionate about music. So I was showing him some ways that in TV shows you can have really good music still. And he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I was like waiting for basically an in for him to give me, and he was talking about that instrument that they use at the end of Avatar.
Oh yeah, the two-stringed instrument. But
there's another one that sounds very similar to it, and it's more of a bar thing, like a metal bar kind of thing. I don't know exactly what to do here. Or what it was. I don't know exactly what it was called.
No, I looked it up at some point. It's a weird sounding name, but yeah.
And so I basically said that reminds me of a very calm ending in a TV show that's like one of my favorites. He's like, oh, what's it called? And I was like, Avatar: The Last Airbender. And he goes, oh, like, you know, is it available to watch anywhere? And I was like, yeah, it's available to watch on like Netflix at the time. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. And I didn't say anything. I was patient. I left him to his devices. I'm not going to like pressure and annoy him there. I had to wait 6 months, and then he told me that he started the show. I was like, oh, how'd you like it? And he said it was pretty good. I was like, it gets really good though. I would highly recommend checking out some opinions online on what you think about it, like what they think about it. They think it's really good. And I let basically the show speak for itself. A month later, he had binged the entire thing.
Nice.
From there, I basically went and told him, I was like, don't you think a lot of other of our friends should watch this show? Like, do you think they'd really like it? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So I was like, we should set up kind of a watch-a-thon thing, and that would be a fun way for us to just connect as people and stuff like that. He set up the whole thing for me. He did the whole thing. So then we end up having this thing where about 20 people come together to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender on a projection screen. And as the show got on, two of them, not him, two of them became the discussers. They were the kind of people that like to hang out afterwards and talk about it. They talked with each other. So I just kind of sidled in triangle-wise into their conversations. And then as the show was ending, they're like, hey, oh, wow, it's so bad that this thing is over. I like wish there was more stuff like this. I'm like, actually, there's a whole subgenre of animation out there where there's a lot more things like this. And those two are now diehard anime fans. And every once in a while, we'll watch a show and tell me basically recommendations about like why I should see that. And they've watched, like, one of them's watched, I would say, about as many things as I have in the short amount of time that it took to do that.
And through that, didn't you also get them to watch Ruby because you showed them like some of the gunchucks and whatnot?
Yeah, Ruby wasn't necessary in order for them to kind of become anime fans, basically. But yeah. But yeah, I played the long game and just waited probably about 3 years, I would say, over the course of
you might only get a 10% success rate, of people like you might only close the deal. No, okay, enough of that. But yeah,
I do get a little bit of ego trip over the idea of that this happened.
Yeah,
But I did have to have those friends initially, so that's something where it was not actually that difficult because we were already good friends in that regard. I wasn't good friends with all of them, mind you, but I became really good friends with the two that then became anime fans after that point. So there you go. Yeah. Yeah, we've deviated completely from the topic of the podcast, but there's actually more people on here now than there were during the majority of the podcast. So
maybe we should do that whole thing.
Maybe we should do these kinds of
getting people into anime.
Well, maybe that would be a good kind of thing to discuss, because I think there is a real separation between being an elitist who actually genuinely wants to get people into anime, but their own stupid pattern behavior or what have you is limiting people from getting into the anime community.
Yep.
And then there are the other people who are, I would say, the ranting promoters, where they just won't shut up and let the people make a decision. And they're also keeping people out of anime as an accidental gatekeeper. Like, they're actually like accidentally
because no one can match
no one can match their energy.
No one can match their energy, so then they don't go in because they think that they would have to match that energy in order to get in. And then there's the people that are basically right in the middle, where they tap into both camps of basically the trust me. I would say that's the elitist positive thing, is the trust me. I know what I'm talking about.
I know what I'm talking about.
This is good.
Yeah. And there's the ranting promoter just like, oh my God, have you seen the latest episode of blah, 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 blah? And it's just like, yeah, we've all been in both camps, but there's a nice healthy middle where you can bring lots of people into the anime community. So, yeah, that's that. Gooey, just trust me, guys. Kappa. I'm in the camp of when someone says, should I watch JoJo? I go, actually, I don't know.
Yeah. That's our dad. He's like, because he saw like part of a couple episodes of JoJo's. And
he saw
like,
part of episodes of part one of JoJo's.
Part one of JoJo's, yeah.
It was just basically the passion between this guy Dio and Jonathan, and how they were like, you, and he's like, oh, me, and he was just like, wow, this seems really like Shakespearean, like I'm interested in this, and we're like ooh, that's like maybe we should work your way up to this. Yeah. I don't think elitists want to get people into anime. Gatekeeping is precisely the point.
Oh, actually, that's a great point. Yeah,
that is a point. That is, I would say, a specific aspect of elitism where it's way more intentional. But I would say there are a lot of people that don't know they're being elitist, and those people are wanting to get people into anime.
Because I knew this guy, great guy, but he was really pissed that basically things like Harry Potter and stuff were mainstream.
Oh,
he hated that.
Wow.
Because his perspective was
prick.
No. His perspective was, I got my head stuffed in toilets and locked in lockers and stuff as a kid because I like this stuff. These same people don't get to like this stuff now. That's my thing.
Yeah, that's
I don't want them to invade this thing that is like this, this safe haven for me kind of a thing.
That's bullshit. I think that is one of the most like toxic kind of behaviors.
Definitely.
Where you basically limit other people's enjoyment because of some slight against you in the past.
Oh yeah. No, I totally don't agree with it, but there was a reasoning behind why he felt that way.
I just don't have any sympathy for it. I really
interesting.
don't. I completely understand the idea behind it. I understand the mechanics, but I have
no sympathy. Interesting.
I have very little. I have very little sympathy. I totally have empathy for him with regards to his bullying, but the actual like situation,
gotcha.
No, not really. I suffered, so others should as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The confirmation bias where people think that others should go through what they did so they appreciate it. That is one of the most garbage mindsets in my opinion.
Oh, definitely.
Because it is not a raise everyone up or even a keep other people from raising up. It is a push other people down to my level kind of thinking.
Right. But, isn't that the common villain trope? I mean, yes, in many ways.
It's one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to go from the angle of I was in it before it was cool, and now all these other people are fakers where they think they're actually fans of it. I've seen that one way more often.
That kind of is a part of it. Yeah.
I kind of laugh in a positive way of like, haha, now you're coming around to see things from my perspective.
Yeah, I've won. Yeah.
Well, basically, it's the social dynamics thing where you realize like, this thing that was once a source of my like people would bully me because of this. Now it's a position of of authority.
The geek shall inherit the earth.
The geeks shall inherit the earth. It is so true.
Yep. It's all natural selection, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no healing in that mentality, but an outer distraction from addressing the hurt within.
Yep.
Yeah, it actually is, I would say, something where I definitely feel a little bit of empathy for the situation that led them to this.
Right.
But I have a hard
totally
like a line in the sand with regards to that. So I know what you're meaning though.
And I love how now it's gone into this like serious tone and everything, when originally it was talking about story elements, and then it was talking about funny, ridiculous stories. And I'm a Jew, with all your jokes about domestic girlfriend and whatnot, you make a serious, great point like that.
Right. Cycronia is saying you feel the same way with gaming though. And thanks to going mainstream with all those FIFA games, monetization in the industry is at an all-time high and is actively making my experience worse. Yep.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
I get that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because right. Yeah.
Yep, that is a thing of where you're then not frustrated at the people, really. You are indirectly frustrated at them, but you're more frustrated at the industry for taking advantage of all those people, which then spills over and affects you in a way where it hurts your wallet. Yeah.
We got back to the side antagonists with depth idea from that story from Jacob.
You're right!
Boom!
Whoa!
Coming full circle.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah. I feel like we can't really top this now. Ooh. Definitely.
This is a great podcast.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should have seen our notes for it of like the things we wanted to talk about.
Do you want to know actually a little secret, chat? I'm waiting for chat to catch up. Do you want to know the secret of our notes on this stream, chat? Yeah. There weren't any. We did this whole thing off the cuff. There was literally nothing.
Like we talked about the topic idea and whatnot,
I got out of the shower 4 minutes before the stream started.
Yep. Knew it. And usually, like, it's more like we'll have like bullet points of like things to go over and stuff.
No, we actually usually have, I would say about 5 sentences of notes basically for the podcast. Yeah.
Sometimes 10.
Yes, sometimes a lot more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, showers can be inspiring to the mind. Yeah.
Indeed.
Now my hair dries fast because it's short now. I don't have all this like nonsense hair anymore.
Yep.
I'm so free. Is Demon Slayer happening this Wednesday? No, it is happening the next Wednesday on early access though.
Yes.
But yeah, Demon Slayer won the poll, so get hyped for that on Wednesdays. Yeah.
No notes? You mean how I DM my games and fool my players? Ha ha ha.
Bloodhawk Flock.
Good man. Good man.
Yes. I have been a DM for many bad campaigns where basically I just blew everything off the cuff of it. But my favorite thing was when my players knew that there were no notes and they were having fun.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like, you want to do this weird
improv
thing? Yeah, let's improv. I'm bringing new character. And they'd be like, that's a dumb character.
I love it.
But you came up with it in 5 seconds ago. It's all right.
It's the whole thing of you see a dark, mysterious hooded figure with runes on their arms and a giant sword on their back with spikes and everything. You know, blah, 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 blah. Okay, what's the innkeeper's name? Boblin the Goblin. I want to talk to this guy.
Like true. And then you end up helping them with their failed marriage and what have you and going on this quest to find a good ring with which he can give a gift to rededicate their vows to their goblin wife. And it's just, it's so wholesome. Who cares about that edgy McEdgerson in the dungeon over there?
Exactly.
We're going on a side quest.
I gotta say, y'all, because I heard this a lot and didn't take it seriously, but improv classes are absolutely wonderful. Because if that kind of just off-the-cuff fun is basically what they're all about. And there can be some really concrete ways to teach that kind of stuff. So I got into it, and it's a ton of fun, and it's made D&D a lot more fun, and discussions a lot more fun. So if that's something that sounds interesting, you should totally try it out, because it's pretty great.
Yeah. No Prep D&D is the best. The guy who usually DMs for our group just gave up trying to prep because we as players are so easily distracted. Yeah, I know what you mean, Rusty. I've had those players.
Yeah. I love how in-depth you guys are with your discussions. I wish I could be as big brain as you guys are. Thank you so much. You are too kind.
Thanks. I guess. Yeah, thanks. Production value through the roof.
Exactly.
Missing a couple things here. So is Middle-earth just a D&D sesh where the DM just shrugs as the players run amok and continuously shift responsibility on the lower and newer players?
Well, one of the things you realize once you play D&D is that every story is a D&D campaign.
That's true. So what I'm hearing is you want more slice of life, cute girls doing cute things where we blow the main quest off into the wind and just have fun. Basically, I mean,
that Gooey.
That could be really fun, yeah.
Well said.
Excuse me, I'm trying to repair a marriage. Fighting you will have to wait.
Yeah.
Go to improv classes and start saying I have a gun in every skit.
No. Do not do that. Do not be Michael Scott. Yeah.
Did Monogatari win a poll a year ago, or was it their decision to watch it?
It was about a year ago. And yes, okay, The Golden Witch, I've played that game. It's wonderful. We did improv stories in school, except we all wrote one line, passed on the sheet to the next, who wrote a line onto it next, and so on.
That's just a fun game to play.
It's so much fun.
Yeah,
it is so
awesome.
Much fun.
I love doing that.
Yeah.
You should also read the Shinsekai Yori manga. Very wholesome. Well, we are putting it on polls for the anime, actually, too.
Right.
So, yeah. Which, by the way, I think there's a poll coming pretty soon, huh?
Yeah.
We should probably get to
Not necessarily saying whether or not it'll have Shinsekai Yori on, because I don't. Right?
Yeah, stay up to date on that if you want to be participating in the vote for that maybe poll that's coming soon. Make sure to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/semblance of sanity. Yeah, if you want to just stay up to date on the discussion side of things, make sure you give the opportunity, if you're a free Twitch Prime that you have, you can have Bezos pay for your access to our Discord, which is a pretty awesome community where we discuss all this kinds of stuff. And yeah, we can have a lot of fun in there. But streams coming up. Jacob, we are not streaming for Thanksgiving, right?
Right, yes, that is something that I forgot to mention on the previous Yakuza 0 stream. But yeah, because Thanksgiving is this week...
Yeah, so
Yakuza 0.
Right, so we usually stream Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
All at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Exactly. We've got stream for Tuesday, the One Piece manga review. Going through that, which is going to be awesome.
Yep, and then a break Thursday.
Break Thursday.
Forgive me, we will have to play darts and whatnot another time.
Yep. And on Friday, we're continuing the Tales of Berseria stream. And there's going to be some Jedi Fallen Order stuff, sprinkled around here and there. I will not be streaming it tonight, but I will be streaming it Wednesday night.
Oh.
So, yes. Look forward to that. I'm having a lot of fun going into a Star Wars game that's single player, and it's actually good.
That does sound pretty fantastic. Because that
doesn't happen.
Mandalorian has been insane. And so, yeah, that would be also amazing.
Right. So, yeah, have a good one, y'all, and we'll see you in the next one. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.
And of course, don't forget to order Battle Lines. It's on Amazon in both hardcover and ebook because it's awesome. It's a sci-fi novel. Link in the description of all our videos. Go check it out. It's great. But
like specifically with Battle Lines, Jacob, I mean, it's got a lot of characters.
Yeah,
but it doesn't really have those side antagonist stuff, but it does have a lot of good.
It has a lot of really good antagonists and side characters. And what I make sure to do is make sure that each character has their own motivations, even if you don't necessarily know what they are at the very beginning.